So I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And roll call, we are missing trustees McDonald, Beers, and Newbold, who all are had other obligations tonight. And just to let everybody know, there's a trustee that needs to leave by 7:15. And once he leaves, we lose our quorum and the meeting ends. So we're going to try to be as efficient as we possibly can, both in terms of public comment and action items tonight, just so that we can get through as much of the business of the board meeting that we try to get to every other week, but this particular meeting is a little bit challenged by that limitation. So with that, we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we move on to item 4 in the agenda, which is to approve the regular meeting minutes from February 13th, 2018. Are there any corrections that anyone noticed? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the February 13th regular board meeting? Moved by trustee Wake and seconded by trustee Duggar. And all those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. And now we move on to public comment for non-agenda items. So if it's something that we'll be talking about later, we would ask you to hold your comments until we actually get to that item on the agenda. If it's something that we won't be talking about tonight, then we ask you to come to the podium, and there's a button to press. A red light will come on because we are on MCAT. And if you represent anyone, please indicate the organization you represent. If you have a name that's spelled in an unusual way, either first or last name, please identify that spelling. And then tonight we're going to try to, we typically recommend that it's 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll try to adhere to that tonight just to make sure that we can actually get the minutes, get the meeting done in a timely fashion. So thank you.
My name is Don Gisselbeck, Gisselbeck. I represent the vestry of Holy Spirit Episcopal Church. We would like to address the problem of students parking in the church parking lot. Since the parking lot often is not full during the week, it is understandable that students might feel it okay to park there. However, church facilities get frequent use from community and church groups. The people attending are often older and would have difficulty walking even the few blocks from always available parking. We also have liability concerns. The church has worked very hard to build a good relationship with the Family Resource Center at Hellgate, and we have supported several projects to help students at risk or in need at Hellgate High School. Since the high school has restricted parking in their own lots to staff only, that has pushed the problem of student parking into the neighborhood, and we find it more and more students parking our lot or congregating there during their lunch hour. We have tried to address this problem with the principal of Hellgate High School, but have received little or no response from him. The school resource officer, Jim Johnson, has been very supportive to requests for special events or when kids are really congregating in the parking lot, but the problem has grown beyond his ability to control it. We are currently losing control of the parking situation in our church parking lot, even though we have signage designating our parking lot as a private lot and signs indicating that we will tow cars if necessary. We have not to date towed anyone, but we are being pushed in that direction or in the direction of booting cars because of the number of students who are parking there. We don't want to antagonize students and have repercussions such as keying cars or breaking windows. We want to be a good neighbor to the high school. We feel that it is time for the high school to be a good neighbor to us in return. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. And then I think the red light, it went off.
Thank you. Melanie Charlson, President, Missoula Education Association. We know education is a very challenging profession at all levels, and these past few weeks has tested educators in multiple ways. While safety and security always sit in the forefront of our minds, the tragic school shooting in Florida again heightened our awareness. We reflect on strategies we are conducting correctly and those which we need review. That's a healthy response, and Missoula Education Association intends to be fully engaged to ensure the safety and security of students and staff. MCPS and the Missoula Education Association enjoy, for the most part, a very collaborative relationship, and I know that's continuing. I have great respect for all central administration. But even in the best of relationships, disagreements do arise. I'm here this evening to address concerns Missoula Education Association holds regarding staff pulled out of their teaching assignment to attend district-level professional development. While PD is crucial to improve our profession, and most educators with whom I speak do appreciate opportunities to collaborate with colleagues, nearly all Missoula EA members share concerns about the excessiveness of time away from class. Roughly 60 out of 172 school days, September through May, professional development meeting sits on the scheduled calendar. That average every 3 days, a group of MCPS educators are pulled from class to attend a professional development session. Granted, these are not the same educators each time, but the impact to classrooms is similar. PD is crucial to student achievement. Educators remaining in the classroom, providing consistent instruction in a safe and secure learning environment is also crucial to student achievement. Educators attending off-site professional development, including principals, presents a safety issue. Substitutes are not trained in active resistance and have minimum access to building security plans or drill procedures. Principals attending district PD are typically not provided a substitute. And when entire grade levels and principals, especially K-5 buildings, are out for professional development, that does put students at risk. Multiple educators attending a district PD meeting strains the substitute pool. Human Resources has significantly increased the substitute pool this year, and we are very grateful for those efforts. However, multiple times the substitute request remains unfilled when educators meet. Missoula EA members often step up and cover an unfilled position, but without additional compensation. At times, this has meant doubling up of classes, or a member with a prep period covers a high school colleague's class, or sometimes canceling classes altogether, such as special education groups, music, or PE. The learning then comes to a standstill, and the remaining educator is left to manage a double load of students. I'd like to remind you a couple of sections of the Administrative Rules of Montana. Chapter 55, Subchapter 7, School Leadership, 10.55.706, Teacher Involvement. Teachers should use their professional judgment to deliver high-quality instruction to all students based on individual need. Teachers shall be involved in curriculum development, student assessments, and in the promotion of a school climate that enhances student learning, achievement, and well-being. And 10.55.714, Professional Development. Item 1I. Professional development is planned collaboratively by those who will participate in and facilitate that development. Item L is evaluated on the impact of professional development on teacher effectiveness and student learning and the results of the assessment guides subsequent PD. Item 3, the local board of trustees shall establish an advisory committee to evaluate the school district's current school year professional development plan, develop and recommend a plan for a subsequent year. And A, the advisory committee shall include but not be limited to trustees, administrators, teachers. A majority of the committee shall be teachers. Missoula EA met numerous times with central admin to discuss minimizing time away from the classroom for delivery of job-embedded professional development. We suggest better utilization of district PIR days and planned district early outs as options that allow educators to receive both high-quality professional development and remain in the classroom as much as possible. We'll continue to seek compromise. We all value academic achievement and the safety and security of students. Allowing educators to remain in their classrooms as much as possible attempts to assure both. Thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items? And again, if you can keep your comments 3 to 5 minutes, that would be great.
My name is Susan Campbell Renault. I am on Martha's Court. I've lived here approximately 26 years, and I've been a taxpayer that entire time. It was approximately 20 years ago, almost to this day, that I stood before you because my son was a junior at Sentinel High School, and one day after the Columbine shooting, a student came into his class and threatened to, he said, if I had a gun in my hand, I would kill all of you. It was terrifying to the teacher, it was terrifying to the students, and very little was done to reprimand that student. Teachers as well as parents were horrified, including myself. I organized a safety fundraising arm. We raised several $1,000s, and I worked with the assistant principal, who at that time was Tony Gallegos, and we purchased safety equipment, which in 1998 I'm sure was extremely simple compared to what we have now, but it was our attempt to address safety. I have brought with me tonight a 10-point suggestion for all of you to consider, and without reading it, because I want you to read these, I'm just going to highlight a few of them. Number one, I hope that you will take any report of a student doing threats very seriously and have them arrested so that they will have a police record. If they actually physically attack someone, I hope they will be arrested. I do hope that you will significantly limit the number of entrances there are to all of your schools. I further suggest, as I did 20 years ago, I personally do not see any reason why students need to drive to school. If they do need to drive to school, they should have a very stringent selection process for being allowed to drive, and they should be issued a permit to have a permit to park in the parking places, so that administrators know exactly who is coming and going out of those parking places. And there should be police that are very consistently going through the parking, because I know for a fact there's a lot of illegal activity going on in those parking lots. There should be scanners at all of our schools, just like there are in public places, where we take really good care of our celebrities, we take really good care of our concert goers. I think our children deserve the same treatment. Any school that has a sign that says it is gun-free should have that sign removed, and there should be a sign placed, top security zone. I am a strong supporter in allowing anyone who is fully authorized as concealed carry to be allowed to conceal carry. I know that's controversial, but you need to consider it. The people who know how to carry and who are legal and law-abiding should be allowed to carry. Make sure that all cameras that are in your schools are operational and are checked frequently. And most importantly, I think the community and the corporations in our community are willing to step up to the plate and make donations. And I think you have a foundation in place for your schools. And I think you should ask for donations so that the taxpayers, specifically the property owners, don't have to necessarily carry the brunt of this. Furthermore, I think we should seriously, throughout this United States, we should have enough support to have police and those that are in belief of support for our children, so that, and not only our children, but also our staff, that they are safe at all times. And I don't know what the proper procedure is to distribute this, but I'd like to have everybody receive a copy. Corbin?
Hi, it's good to see all of you. My name's Christy Muir. I teach first and second grade at Lewis and Clark. This is my 15th year with the district, 17th year teaching, and I love every day of it. And I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for all of you for being here. So I just wanted to echo Melanie's concerns regarding large groups of teachers being out of a building and the vulnerabilities that result from both a security standpoint and an instructional standpoint when a lot of us are gone, because it is a factor. I'm in favor of doing as much of our work as possible during our district early outs and our district PIR days. I realize that's a constant tension that we're always trying to sort out, and I appreciate the continued conversation on that. I also sincerely hope that we continue to move forward immediately on this and many other actions that could keep our students and teachers safer. I have had so many colleagues come to school this week and just said, if I'm willing to die for my students every single day, which most of them are, no one has told me they're not, they really want to see a lot more happening, and they're really scared. And I know it's a cycle, and yes, this was a school shooting, and so it's even more in the forefront of our minds. It's also not a new issue. It's just that that wound is reopened every time it happens, and it just feels fresh. So similar to putting on a seatbelt before you begin a trip in a car, a strong baseline of safety measures should be in place before we begin moving towards any other goals as our district, in the district. I was chatting with a friend this weekend, just casually. She brought it up. She said her 7-year-old has explained to her that he feels safe in some rooms at school and not others, and safer with some adults at his school than others. He had noticed the different locks on the doors, the proximity of rooms to outside doors, and the personalities of certain teachers that he felt were tougher than others and could potentially protect him better. His school has not practiced a lockdown this year, so these noticings were not prompted by any class discussion or drill. This is just the context in which our children live today. And he was thinking about it. We owe it to our students to leave no doubt that we are doing all that we can to keep them as safe as possible. We will likely never be in a serious car accident, but that terrible possibility makes it imperative that we wear seatbelts every single time we get into a car. Our students and teachers will likely never be shot or stabbed or bombed at school, but that terrible possibility makes it imperative that we are thoroughly prepared for any dangerous event that may occur in our schools. I'm hopeful that we will start to see changes in our district in response to the Florida shooting. I'm hopeful that we can again build momentum around simple, common sense improvements and trainings that can absolutely change the outcomes of a school shooting or other attack. Thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Hi, Greg Imhoff, 6th grade teacher at Washington. I'm just going to piggyback on what they said and show you from the middle school perspective. So at Washington, we're pulled out a lot, but which I firmly believe that a lot of it's very valuable. I find a lot of it valuable. One thing that I find disconcerting is the lack of subs in our district. Just Thursday, my teammate was gone, and I was in between her room and my room for the first half an hour of school till somebody could come cover. The person that came and covered was a special ed para who was with that class for 90% of the day till a sub actually showed up. And that's scary to me, because if there is something that happens, such as a lockdown drill or something that the sub hasn't been trained in, it's scary what the kids are going to go through and how they're going to feel and if they're going to feel safe. Not having enough subs has been a problem, not just this year, but last year, and I know we've done something to curtail it over the summer, and that's great, but I've been gone a couple of days for meetings where there hasn't been a sub, even though I've planned out where they've canceled at the last minute, and so either the administration has to cover or we get paras who are supposed to be working with special ed kids. So my mantra is doing what's best for kids, and our situation currently isn't really doing what's best for kids, and that's another scary issue for going forward at schools, because I want all my kids to learn, and if for the day they have a substitute para who hasn't been trained as an educator teaching them math or accelerated math, they're not getting what their needs met. And so I just want to say that to everyone so they know moving forward, can we do something about the sub situation and when the teachers are pulled out, and can we meet and get that taken care of? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Dean Smith, and I teach at Sentinel High School, AP Chemistry, Geology, and I'm also the department chair. And I am speaking on behalf of what Melanie talked to you about. I've been with the district for so many years that I'm teaching students of my students. Melanie has expressed our concern to you about the job embedded PD that we have. We as teachers feel strongly that our best work is accomplished in the classroom. And while we appreciate the opportunities that the district has provided us, we feel our needs would be better met by meeting outside of the classroom during PLC time and during PIR days. We would also be able to save a little bit of money, but not hiring substitutes, and maybe afford a little bit of curricular materials, which is so well needed. Okay. And I decided to take a little look at math since I'm a science teacher. At Sentinel, we have 10 science teachers. They're pulled out for 3 times a year, 3 hours a day, so that they have a total of 90 hours of missed instruction for our science students. However, Sentinel Science is not the only department that's being pulled out. There are 13 English teachers that add another 117 hours. There are 6 HPE teachers that add another 54 hours. So Sentinel High School is pulling out for embedded PDs 261 hours during the school year. That is almost 44 days of curriculum instruction that your students do not receive from me and my colleagues because of embedded professional development. Okay. I truly do appreciate working with your students, but I am very possessive of the time I have with them because they leave me all too soon, as that one right there is just about to do in another quarter and a half. So thank you for your attention, and I appreciate it.
My name's Ezra Shear. I teach over at Sentinel High School with Miss Smith. It's been an honor and a pleasure. I was here in the fall. I meant to come back sooner to finish that conversation about, what was it? Weighted GPAs, but unfortunately time gets away from us. So I'm a social studies teacher, but I want to talk a little bit about math. So you guys can check the math if you want. But there's 2 ways that, I came here from Ohio, and you look at our calendar, and there's some bizarre little things in the school day, like these Thursday early outs. It's a huge opportunity. And then 3 days a year, we have embedded time during the school year where we are required to attend training directed by the district. So those are real times. And in addition to that, we have to do another 12 hours outside of the school day, outside of the contract day, of additional professional development. All told, that is 68 hours of professional development that every teacher has to do over the course of the school year, either Thursday early outs during those 3 days, August, September, April, or the directed contractual 12 hours. That's a lot. Every other district in the nation is fighting against teachers being absent because the impact of one teacher being absent 10 or more days is substantial. You take math scores in elementary, it's about the same as the discrepancy between socioeconomic status for one teacher gone for 10 days. If you lose a teacher for 10 or more days, then the teacher that was there might as well be replaced, a veteran teacher might as well be replaced with a teacher who has 1 year or less experience. Our students, our community values us as highly qualified educators. And we, as highly qualified educators, we want enriching professional development. Our My Voice data indicates that. And the My Voice data indicates that we do not currently have enriching professional development. From 16-17, the number of high school, Sentinel High School, meaningful professional development exists in my district. Total in agreement was 36% at Sentinel High School. At Big Sky High School, it was 48%, which is better. And at Hellgate High School, it was 33.3%, which is not great. That's the high school data. I do not have the elementary school data. So we as teachers, we want meaningful professional development. But now we're given professional development by taking from us what we cherish most, which is to be with our students every single day. And the instructional gains that we value are being lost. And that's the community, because I bought a house. I'm not a renter anymore, so I see where those tax dollars go. But there's this myth that if you get a master's degree, you're not going to get hired, right? That's what they tell you at the College of Ed, but MCPS isn't that way. We value highly qualified educators. Let's keep them in the classroom. The safety concerns are absolutely paramount. The instructional outcomes, the student learning objectives, they are compromised every day we are not teaching our students. And so I urge us to look at our calendar. This April 20th, there's a district PIR day. Every teacher will be in a building for job-embedded professional development. And all those teachers that were pulled out over the course of the last year, there is currently only 2 planned job-embedded professional development. An active resistance training at Lowell, which is absolutely essential. Every building needs to have that, period, end of story. And the second is a STAR champion training for 50 teachers. What are the other hundreds of teachers going to do? How do we say to a teacher, this professional development was so important, we took you out of your classroom so you can no longer educate our children. But on this April day, or this early out, we don't have anything planned for your professional development. This is an opportunity. I'm proud to be in a district that values professional development so much that we embed it in our contract. That's awesome, because that's a statement about what we value as a district. Let's honor that. Let's make sure our teachers are in the classrooms as often as possible, because that's what we know our students need every single day. Thank you for your time. We'll try to keep it brief. Appreciate it.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
I'm Gretchen Murray. I'm Washington Middle School, and I just have a very brief request. I too, thank you. I too have been around for many generations, and some of you are former students of mine as well. At any rate, we've been watching at Washington Middle School for the past 6 years as IB and Spanish have marched towards our school, and we have great concerns as educators at Washington Middle School. And we would just like the chance to hear from the administration and from everyone how it's going to fit. We are currently rather snug in our environment as we go through the building, and we have a lot of students, and we're very concerned. And there's so many more things to say, but please be wary, be aware, and talk to the teachers in the school. Let us be a part of that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Thank you. My name is Sue Fury. I am a special education teacher at Sentinel High School, and I value the fact that all of you give up all these hours to be on the school board and listen to so many things, but critical things. So I'm going to talk about safety also from a little bit different perspective. I have been on the EIT committee for Sentinel High School to plan for future development and what's going to change. It's been very interesting, but I really want to encourage you as the school board, before the final things happen, to look at the way things are planned and the safety. I think that our architects have done a good job being architects, but I'm not sure that we have school safety professionals that have looked at what's to be planned. One of the things that is planned is, originally there was supposed to be a walkway between two of the buildings, and there's a few outside buildings, so I think that the plan was to get everything in the building. That's not going to work because it would take space away that we already have. So the 500 building, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we're still going to have classes in there, I think, and the students can just walk outside to go to that building. There's no way to lock that up. So they had talked about putting some kind of a walkway in there but it was taken sort of out of the budget because it was too expensive. So I know it's hard to figure these things out, but safety is of ultimate concern. I would just encourage you to look at get professionals. The other thing I'm always concerned about, and I know you've probably heard from me before, because I am a special education teacher and I'm kind of a big advocate for accessibility and inclusion. We did have, our architect was very proud of themselves that they had a student that uses a wheelchair walk through the building with them, which I think is great. But we also need professionals. So we did have somebody come from Summit Independent Living Center who does do assessments of buildings. And I really hope that you will look at the accessibility. I mean, it's amazing to me that it's not a general rule that things are looked at in accessibility. I mean, the ADA was passed in like 1990, and it's amazing to me that we still have things like that just don't make sense, like bathrooms that don't make sense. And so I would just encourage you to look at that, and the safety issue is really critical. The other part about safety is because it doesn't mean because I'm in special ed, I don't mean to say that, but I work with students who have disabilities, and I have kids that have multiple disabilities. This fall, I was threatened by a student, little freshman. He has multiple issues. He was threatened to kill me, and I reported it. I was very upset, reported it. You know, there was an insinuation kind of that I was egging him on, although this particular student has had issues through his life. He's got serious mental illness, along with some cognitive issues. And it was not handled properly at all. I asked for an assessment, a risk assessment, which I didn't. To me, a risk assessment is having a neuropsych do an assessment, whether he's a threat to himself or others. So not only did he threaten to kill me, but he threatened to kill other kids, named people. This happened 2 or 3 times, and they decided that I shouldn't be his teacher anymore, so they moved things around, which doesn't really solve the problem, right? No. So sure enough, happens again. I mean, it's kind of a cyclical thing. Happens again. This time it takes an hour. You know, men are standing around, people are standing around listening to him. We get the kids out of the room and those kinds of things. Anyway, I'm very worried about this student, and I'm worried about other students. I'm worried about our staff. So I guess what I'm finally coming to is that it was sort of like pushed aside that because he had a disability that he probably wouldn't follow through on this. I don't believe that anymore. I mean, we've seen so many times with what has happened is that, you know, you can't not take this stuff seriously. I mean, you can't just say, oh, he's a little freshman, or she's this, or she's that, so that's not going to happen. I think we need to take it seriously. So I guess what the good thing that's come out of our district, and I didn't even know this existed, that there is a process. I didn't know there was a process. Nobody told me there was an official process. It's on the live binder on our website, the MCPS website, and I would encourage all of you to look at it, even, you know, people in the community. And I congratulate you for all that work. I just want everybody to know that, because I didn't know it, and I was complaining, and I was talking, and some of you know me. I talk a lot, and I complain a lot, and I advocate a lot. And I was saying a lot of things, sending a lot of emails, and I didn't know it. I don't think my principal knew it up until maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But I just want to make sure that you know it, and that everybody, the staff knows it, what to do when there's a threat. Because as we saw, there were threats in Florida. There were threats other places. And people didn't do things. So we need to take it seriously. Unfortunately, we need to take it seriously. I mean, these are little children. Yes, we don't want to believe them. We don't want to believe that they will harm, but they can. They've been through a lot. Thank you.
Any other comments on non-agenda items?
Good evening. I'm Joe Fisher, and I do represent the Golden Triangle of Concerns because I have the pleasure of being a taxpayer and a parent of a student in MCPS and also a teacher at MCPS. I currently teach at Sentinel High School across the way. And I think to summarize, I think a lot of what you've heard, and hopefully you're aware of this, but there is a significant amount of conflict between central administration, some building administration, and staff here in MCPS. And I am not sure if the trustees are aware of that. And there's a number of reasons for specific issues of conflict. But I think more than anything else, rather than go into those specifics, a wise person, I'm not sure who, is probably someone in this building, in this right now, said the most important question is the question of why. And it has been hammered in my head over these last several years is we must make data-driven decisions, and we need to know why we're making significant changes or any change to how we instruct students or whatever we do as teachers. There must be data. And it was also driven into my brain that you don't go with it's research based. No, this is education. It needs to be research verified, absolutely. And I believe as a staff member, although I have not gone through some of the things that other teachers have discussed, I am very, very concerned with the ability of central administration, and at times building administration, to effectively communicate with staff, and I mean all staff. Every staff, whether you're classified or certified in MCPS, about why we're doing something and presenting excellent data-driven reasons for why we're making changes, because we are making some significant changes, which indeed we may need to do as a school district. But we need to know why. We've been trained that way, and the district has driven it in our head that we need to make data-driven decisions. So as we go forward, I would encourage the trustees and others to go out there and speak to teachers and staff, teach to everyone. Talk to everyone that you can about is there conflict and why is there conflict. And I believe a big part of that is a failure to communicate. Thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, well, thank you for all those comments. Non-agenda items are items where the trustees won't be discussing them tonight because there wasn't notice given to the public that we would be making any decisions on them. But any comments that are heard tonight may end up on an agenda at a future time. And at that time, then there will be discussion by the board. But because of the Open Meeting Act and notice to the public in terms of decisions being made, non-agenda items aren't discussed by the trustees at this meeting. Doesn't preclude that they won't be discussed at future meetings. And so with that, we'll move on to reports and announcements. And 6A is the Health Insurance Trust Fund report that's found on page 12. It's the routine Health Insurance Trust Fund report for the month of January. 6B are announcements from Superintendent Thane.
Thank you. First, I would call your attention to items that are listed in the packet on page 13. Routinely, we list out items, but there are a few things that I would like to call to the attention of the viewing public. We will have trustee building visits at Jefferson and Dickinson on Wednesday, March 7th. We're also, it's hard to believe, we're approaching the last set of parent-teacher conferences. K-8 schools will engage in conferencing typically Wednesday, Thursday, although it's reflected on the calendar as Thursday, Friday, March 8th and 9th. Students will not be in session Thursday afternoon, March 8th, and Friday, March 9th. The next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be Tuesday, March 13th. Spring break is the last week of March, March 26th through March 30th. And I want to highlight especially that normally our second board meeting for the month of March would fall on Tuesday, March 27th. But as Pat McHugh indicated at the last board meeting, because of the way the election cycle falls and our need to approve the ballot language, we will instead have a special board meeting Tuesday, April 5th to approve ballot language. Or excuse me, Thursday, April 5th. Thank you for the correction. So we will cancel the previously scheduled March 27th board meeting. So that's reflected on that calendar. I do want to speak just briefly about really a couple very difficult weeks across the country in terms of school safety and security. And I think a lot of us have spent a great deal of time reflecting on the tragic events that were visited upon Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. And we had some conversation at our last special board work session about school safety. And I do think it's important that we reflect on a couple things. And the first thing I would want to call your attention to is that we as a district have made significant efforts and committed ourselves to wraparound services for students. And we use that term frequently. But really, it's all about addressing the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students in addition to their academic needs. So I just want to remark on a couple things. First of all of our schools are engaged in MBI, the Montana Behavioral Initiative, where schools are engaged in planning to develop systems of support and to teach and reinforce pro-social behaviors. Our schools also have CSCT teams, Comprehensive School and Community Treatment Programs, which are mental health therapists working within our buildings to serve students with needs. We're working to foster safe and inclusive school environments, recognizing and supporting the diversity of our student body, and that's done in a variety of ways. Diversity Week, which was just concluded, is one example. Our engagement with Empower Montana is another example. And as we discussed at last month's board meeting and is reflected in the minutes, we have a mental wellness subcommittee that has done extensive work and during the last year focused on suicide awareness and prevention. And we as a district, as a result, have implemented depression screeners in grades 7 to 10. So working to address those social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students remains a top priority in the district. Additionally, we heard comment tonight about school safety and security, and one of the key points in our bond election was school safety and security, and we all could identify a number of places where we have entries to school buildings that are not secure and entries that are not supervised. And one of the key elements of the bond program is developing vestibules and welcome centers in all our buildings so that when a person enters the building, they're met by a human being who's there at a reception area. Unfortunately, we can't snap our fingers and have all those projects done instantly, but we have made significant progress on a number of buildings. This summer, we'll have 10 buildings under construction in one way, shape, or form. We also are looking to accelerate the timeline for getting the architects for our last two projects, Porter and Big Sky, hired, and we'll do that in the month of April. So we'll be coming to you with the request to go out to begin that process. We also are reviewing the construction projects that are in progress to identify whether or not there are elements related to safety and security that we can accelerate within each of those projects, make them one of the early priorities as construction's initiated in each of those buildings. We have changed not only the architecture with the entryways, but we will have card key access so we can better regulate all doors in the buildings. And for high school students, that would mean carrying their ID card, and as they transition between buildings, those doors would be locked, and they would have to use their card in order to access the building. We will have specific building lockdown systems. And as was referenced in Ezra Shear's comment, we have some new facilities that are architecturally different from some facilities that we've had, namely Lowell and Franklin. We need to train differently to not only implement active resistance, but emergency drills that we have contemplated in very different facilities in the past. And so we're in process there. They've done their first lockdown at Lowell. They're planning the active resistance training for all staff on April 23rd. So I recognize that the events of the last month cause us to reflect on where we are and what we're doing, and I take great pride in the work that the staff has done, and in particular the teaching staff. We've been engaged in training for active resistance for about 4 years. We have about 60% of our staff that have completed the intensive 8-hour training. That's not good enough. We're looking at models to try and get the rest of our staff trained, and also sustain training for those people that are new to the district. And it's not about training for every possible scenario that presents itself, because that's not possible. But it's really about empowering teachers to understand the parameters within which they can respond should an emergency present itself, giving them some tools and some confidence to make those decisions. So we'll continue to press very hard in that regard. We recognize that student safety and security is our #1 concern. It's our primary concern, and I've long believed
that you can't educate the student until you've reached the student. And reaching the student in terms of a basic need, and that's meeting their need for safety and security, fits into that model. So I appreciate all the work that has been done in the buildings. I know we have a lot of work left to do, and we'll continue to press on and make that a significant priority. Thank you.
Now we move on to announcements from trustees. Do any trustees have any announcements? Trustee Lorenzen?
When we were studying safety, I attended a lot of meetings, I went to all the committees, and I don't think I ever heard the suggestion that we issue parking permits. And it's so brilliant, I'm in awe of it. I mean, it would not be expensive. It would let us know what vehicles are in our parking lots. It would also, at Hellgate, let us control who's parking where, and maybe the idea that we do qualify the kids to drive. You have to be a junior to drive to school or something like that. But it honestly never came up before, so I'm very grateful that we got that suggestion tonight.
Any other comments from trustees? Seeing none, then we move on to 7, which is the consent agenda, and these are routine perfunctory matters that we see every month. I'm going to break it down into A and B and vote separately because A only has one elementary student on it. So the board does not discuss items on the consent agenda because they're very routine and we see them every month. But if there's any public comment, we do take public comment. So first, I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-district attendance agreement that is attached on page 14 from an elementary trustee. Moved by trustee Smith. Is there a second? Seconded by trustee Decker. As I indicated, we don't discuss these items since we see them every month, and they're very routine. But any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of approving the out-of-district attendance agreement that's attached, please indicate by raising your hand. And I'll put your hand down. And so it is, Diane, is your hand up? Okay, thank you. And so that is unanimous as to all elementary trustees present. And then we come to item 2 on the consent agenda, which is to approve revenue and expenditure reports. This is for January 2018. As I indicated again, this is a routine report we see each month, and the warrant supporting the reports are available in the business office. So is there a motion to approve the attached revenue and expenditure reports? Moved by trustee Wake, seconded by trustee Lorenzen. There won't be any board discussion. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all trustees in favor of approving the attached revenue and expenditure reports, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's every trustee present. Thanks. Unanimous. Then we move on to 8A1, which is a request that students from Hellgate High School be permitted to study in Germany and study German in Germany in June 12th through July 2nd, 2018. So Mrs. Allen, we see these routines on a regular basis.
Right.
Is there anything you'd like to highlight with this one?
No, I think unless there's some very specific questions with the time constraint, and because we do this routinely, and I think this is well structured.
Any questions for Mrs. Allen? Trustee Smith?
I just have a question about the timing. I know we're supposed to be doing these 6 months in advance, and I see this is the 25th anniversary. Is this something that we need to look at changing the policy because it's just not easy to get, or is this just an outlier?
This is an outlier. Trying to make a long story short, the usual chaperone for this trip is not able to go, so there was some feeling that we wouldn't do it. And then Missoula, the community of Missoula and the community in Germany said, wait a minute, this is a very important anniversary, we want you to come. So we corralled the troops again and came up with a plan. And that's why we're late, and we apologize for that.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Any other questions? Sorry, it's maybe a comment. Okay, so no further questions. Then is there a motion to approve, let me get the out-of-country travel request from Lisa Moser at Hellgate High School for students to travel to Germany to study German between June 12th and July 2nd, 2018. Moved by trustee Decker and seconded by trustee Duggar. Comment?
I know we're in a hurry. We see a lot of these. This is just really, really well put together. Good job to the teacher.
Thank you.
And now we move on to 8B1, which is to approve. Oh. Did we vote? Oh, we need to vote. Okay, no, first we need to have public comment. Thank you for that reminder. So we have a seconded motion on the floor. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Thank you for the reminder. Seeing none, then all those in favor of approving the out-of-country travel request that's attached to our agenda, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to trustees present. Thank you. Then we move on to B1, which is to approve a transportation route mileage change. And it looks like we've been seeing these, not on a regular basis, but on a periodic basis. So Burley, is there anything you want to highlight about this request before I entertain a motion?
Yeah, thanks. On page 20, it starts on page 20, I believe 20 and 21. It has all the reimbursable routes for our student transportation. We do this, we tend to do this twice a year. And what it does, it ensures that we get the most accurate reimbursement for these routes at the end of the year. And routes change quite frequently throughout the district, so, which is why we kind of do it twice a year. With special needs routes, sometimes they decrease mileage, sometimes they increase mileage. And so we like to have these approved through the Board of Trustees, and then it gets sent to the Transportation Committee at the county level for final approval, so that the proper reimbursement gets sent back to us.
Any questions of Burley? Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve the bus route mileage changes for the 2017-2018 school year? Moved by trustee Wake. Is there a second? Seconded by trustee Smith. Is there any board discussion? I just have one comment. Thank you for, this looks like it's very detail-oriented work, so thank you for keeping up on all this, you and your staff. I appreciate it. So any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, then all those in favor of approving the bus route mileage change for the 2017-2018 school year, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to trustees present. And I guess I'll have one suggestion since we're moving towards 7:15. Would it be okay with the trustees if 8B2 we hold off for, just so that we can move through the items that require action to be taken by the board? I think we'll have time for everything, but just in case, is that okay with everybody? Trustee Smith?
I just want to clarify, through the miracle of technology and texting, I had bought myself an extra 20 minutes or so.
Okay, then we won't change the agenda. Okay, so we're on to 8B2, which is information only, and it's an update on the 2018-2019 budget and levy projections. And so, Pat, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, perfect. And my presentation's 29 minutes, so that'll give these other items.
We have to stop because Corbin's out of the room.
No, we still have a quorum. He's a high school trustee.
It's information, this item.
Oh, we do, okay, yay. We have 7, yay, okay.
Appreciate that, Diane.
So, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So on page 23, you'll see an updated projection spreadsheet showing both the elementary and secondary projections. This document reflects our February enrollment count. As you all know, we perform enrollment counts in October and February that are used for the following year's budget projections. So based upon our February enrollment counts combined with our October enrollment counts, you'll see our proposed budget. And at the top of the spreadsheet for both the elementary and the high school, you'll see the highest budget without a vote, and then below that, our voted levy. And at this point in time, this will likely be the amount that we'll recommend as the voted levy. We receive from the state our preliminary data sheets at the end of this week, and those data sheets will reflect some additional information about guaranteed tax base allocations and disproportionate cost allocations, which could affect the voted levy in a minor way. But really, at this point, this is what we would look at as a recommendation for the voted levy in both the elementary and the high school. They're not the amounts are reflected there. In the elementary, a $254,000 voted levy, and in the high school, $179,000 voted levy. With the budgetary increase, assuming passage of those levies, you'll see the total allowable budget there on line 3, less the prior year or this year's budget will result in an increase in general fund budget of about 1.2 million in the elementary and 575,000 in the high school. Below that line, the increase, you'll see the various budgetary expenses to build into the budget, primarily in the salary and benefit area. This is part of our negotiated contract, our 3-year agreement with our various groups and unions. And following those increases, we would have a net available for other increases of 130,000 in the elementary and negative 93,000 in the high school. So more work would be done in the high school. So below the line in the anticipated other obligation category, you'll see some other items of expenditure that we're anticipating at this point in time. This will require some additional work, of course, to get to a balanced point, but at this point, we're in a negative net balance position in both the elementary and the high school, before taking into account Senate Bill 261, which is reflected there at the bottom. I kind of buzzed through this pretty quickly because you guys have all seen this several times. I want to be respectful of the time. I do have some additional slides, but one of which I'll just describe and point out to you all is within the general fund, the way that the general fund functions is that we are compelled to adopt a base budget, which is partly funded with a base levy. That's a permissive levy of our local taxpayers. The permissive levy is an amount that's really calculated by first calculating what the state contributes. And if you'll recall, for this budget year, the state, in Senate Bill 647, they backed out some state block grant dollars. What that meant for us, and really for our local taxpayers, is that it resulted in an increase of the local tax burden for the base budget. What was contemplated by Senate Bill 647 was that the guaranteed tax base allocation from the state would progressively go up in the next 3 or 4 years. So looking at the 12% adjustment that the state's going to make to that component of the funding formula and adding that 12% to what our prior year GTB allocation was, I'm estimating that our base levy contribution from local taxpayers, the permissive levy part of the general fund, will go down in the elementary by about 380,000 and will go down in the high school by about 400,000. This amount of reduction in base levy would more than offset what we're proposing as an overbase or a voted tax levy as part of the general fund. It's an estimate because the 12% increase in GTB is not certain until we take a look at our preliminary data sheets at the end of this week. But I think it'll be something we can go into a little more detail on March 13th. I don't think that it'll adjust what we're going to recommend as our voted levy to you that we run in May, but it will be something I'll show to you and demonstrate at that point in time. Also on the 13th, we'll present a resolution that will outline all of our estimates of all of our levies. And we're compelled to do, under Senate Bill 307, estimates of all of our permissive levies for 4 of our budgeted funds. We're going to list them all, and so we'll show all of them and show you the impact, tax impact, mill impact for all of those levies, and they will be estimates, and we have estimates now, but I think in the interest of time, I can wait until the next meeting or wait until after we get through these next agenda items before we take a look at that, whatever the pleasure of the board has for that.
Well, since we're on the topic, so is this a good time for people to ask questions? Any questions? Trustee Lorenzen? Oh, trustee.
Thanks. The 5 FTE listed over on the elementary side, does that include the early childhood positions that we discussed in our work session?
It may. We're still working through the numbers. We're also trying to assess what the Title I contribution would be. We're in an interesting position because we have a number of classrooms that are actually above accreditation standard, but have teachers, assistants, paraeducators assigned so that we technically meet the standard. So to the degree we can look to add teaching staff, do some adjustments to our enrollment, we'll contemplate that. But we, in past years, have usually come forward with 2 to 3. We did include 5 this time so that we had a buffer so that we could consider the early kindergarten.
I guess, and I know you don't have this number, I'd like to know next time about how much does it actually cost to run an election? I'd also like for the administration to begin preparing for what we're going to do if we don't run it, or if we run it and it doesn't pass. Because I think that, you know, people are really feeling the tax burden, and we can split the hairs over whether the base levy went down or not, but this is an opportunity for the public to gain some breathing space. And so, you know, we need to be prepared that either it's not worth the cost versus the probability of it passing, and then what are we going to do without that money?
I will point out that the levy election would be at the same time as trustee election, which we are compelled to have. So there would not be an additional cost to run a levy election this year.
Do we have multiple candidates for each trustee position?
That remains to be seen. Good point.
Pat, did you have anything else to add?
In response to the question?
Yep.
I'll provide that information. I was going to guess that we're about 35,000 per election side, but I'll get specific information.
Any other questions? I just had a couple quick ones, hopefully quick ones. So anticipated obligations that are listed below the salary and benefits that we see every year, and those are contractually obligated. And we just had a discussion about the 5 full-time employee classroom staff, but the other ones like SRO, CRO, and SSO, are these line items are things that we're putting in the general budget now that have been obligations in the past? Is that correct? And then I guess the question is, what is student transportation something we see every year and it doesn't have a different funding source? And is that the same with property and general liability insurance? Are those things that we typically have to fund through the general fund?
Yes, so all of these items are items typically funded through the general fund. All of them represent increases to existing budgets. The SRO, CRO, SSO, that reflects the police officers in the school and the ongoing contract that we have with the city of Missoula. These are inflationary increases. The property general liability insurance is probably one we'll see an adjustment to. This reflects both inflationary increase and an estimated one. We may not have one this year, and it also reflects additional space as a result of construction. So that's our property liability increased cost. Utilities, this is an estimate of increase that would reflect our ownership of the Missoula College and those utilities and building those into the budget. So it's intentionally very limited. I'm sorry, I skipped over student transportation. Student transportation, we've been experiencing over expenditure of student transportation costs really related to activities and athletics for a number of years. And we've, through the board, have boosted those budgets about 80,000 to this point. This is travel for activities and athletics. And we're still seeing, even with the boost of the budgets, where that area is a challenge for us and challenge for the high schools. So it's something that we had on the list last year. We weren't able to hit. I'm putting it on there just to keep it out there on the radar. Yep.
Any other questions for Pat? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? It is information only at this time. Seeing none, then we'll move on to 8B, And I will make a suggestion, since B3, B4, B5, and B6 are the exact same requests, except that the location differs. So it's granting permission to solicit bids for the removal of hazardous materials for Lewis and Clark, for Hawthorne, for Meadow Hill. So the first four would be, the first three would be elementary only. Would anyone object to having Burley explain them as a whole and then voting them on them as a three-part, just combining those first three, and then we'll keep Willard separately just because it's a high school? So Burley, do you want to tell us if there's anything, we've seen these kind of requests in the past, so.
Yeah, thanks. So this, as part of the bond projects, we go through, we hire a company to come in and do a hazardous material assessment of our facilities. Some of these have been done, some of these are not. We're just preparing to have these done because they're going to be completed here probably the next month or two, looking for some abatement this summer, and going forward as we get more into some of these bond projects in these respective schools. We, once we get the assessment done and we look at what the design is and how that's going to impact where we do the abatement of those hazardous materials, we then put that out for bid for companies to come in and remediate those for us. So this is just asking permission to go out for those bids.
Thanks. Any questions of Burley before there's a motion? Seeing no questions, then if there's, is there a motion from an elementary trustee to grant permission to solicit bids for the removal of hazardous materials for Lewis and Clark Elementary School bond projects, for Hawthorne Elementary School bond projects, and for Meadow Hill Middle School bond projects? Moved by trustee Lorenzen and seconded by trustee Kendall. Any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on these items? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of granting permission to solicit bids for the removal of hazardous waste materials from the three elementary properties indicated, please indicate your affirmative vote by raising your hand. I said that rather awkwardly. That is unanimous as to all elementary trustees present. Then we come to 6, which is the same request to solicit bids for removal of hazardous waste from the Willard Alternative High School bond project. Anything that stands out for Willard that's any different than what we've been seeing with these similar requests?
No, the only thing different would be this would be for the entire facility. Since we are demoing it, we are required to abate the facility before demolition.
Any questions for Burley? Trustee Decker?
Specifically because it's a demolition project and then you're going to be disposing of waste here, are you also going to put out a bid or be looking for a deconstruction sort of company to do an assessment or analyze the building or be part of that deconstruction process?
Are you talking about like recycling type stuff? We will work with the general contractor who was awarded that project. I'm going to look at Holtane because I'm not sure we were awarded that yet. Where's he at? We haven't awarded that, have we? That's not part of the general contract. The demolition? Yeah, it is. So I stand corrected. So that is part of the general contractor's requirements. So we will work with them to make sure we're doing that. Oftentimes, like with Franklin and Lowell, they separated all the metals and they went through that whole process. So we will definitely go through that process again.
Okay, thanks. I just couldn't remember if it was a separate stage of the game or if it was part of the same thing. Thank you.
Any other questions for Burley? And just to clarify, since this topic is to solicit bids for the removal of hazardous materials, we're not going to try to recycle any hazardous materials, right? Okay. It may, I mean, that may be part of the contract with the rest of the building, but the hazardous materials will be disposed of properly. Okay, good. Any other questions? Seeing none, then is there a motion to grant permission to solicit bids for the removal of the hazardous materials associated with the construction project for Willard? Moved by trustee Wake, seconded by trustee Lorenzen and trustee Breakstead. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, then all those in favor of granting permission to solicit bids for the removal of hazardous materials from the Willard Alternative High School project, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to all trustees present. Thank you. And then we move on to 7, which is to authorize the engagement of Hawthorne Elementary General Contractor and Construction Manager. The recommendation from the administration is that the trustees authorize the engagement of Sletton Construction to act as the general contractor construction manager for the Hawthorne Elementary School contract and renovation project. So this is an elementary action item. Burley, I know that, not everyone here, not members of the public here, but we've been seeing these requests, and it's the end product of a vetting system. So if you could just briefly touch upon what the process is, because we'll be talking about that with the next topic as well.
Yeah, thanks. So it's a process that starts off with a request for qualifications, where general contractors will submit the qualifications as a general contractor construction manager. It's a unique, it's a different approach rather than a hard bid. It's an alternative project delivery is another name for it. And it requires the general contractor, doesn't require, but it puts the general contractor on our team to look at scheduling, how we can do value engineering to reduce costs in the building, look at different kind of materials to reduce costs within the building. So it become an integral part of our team along with the architect companies and engineers as well. After we qualify those companies, that they meet the pass-fail expectations of those qualifications, we ask them to submit a request for proposal. In that request for proposal, they submit to us their approach and how they will approach the project, and then, of course, their fee is part of that RFP as well. We score those, and we invite up to 4 of them back to interview for the project. Tonight, we are requesting the district authorize the pending negotiations with Sletton Construction to run the Hawthorne project. And of course, this is some of you have been through this process. It is time consuming, and I always like to make sure I thank the committee because of the time consuming that it takes away from everybody's personal life and job. But Superintendent Thane, Trustee Lorenzen, Pat McHugh, Principal Becky Sorensen, Ray Cooper, and Karen Allen. So we appreciate their time. And also I'd like to thank Cody from Sletton for showing up tonight. Thanks.
Any questions for Burley? Seeing none, then is there a motion from an elementary trustee to authorize the engagement of Sletton Construction to act as the GCCM for Hawthorne Elementary School construction during the project? Moved by Trustee Lorenzen, seconded by Trustee Decker. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of authorizing the engagement of Sletton Construction to act as the GCCM for Hawthorne Elementary School constructions and renovation project, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous as to elementary trustees present. Then we move on to item number 8, which is a parallel request, which is to the administration recommends the selection of Dick Anderson Construction as the GCCM for Lewis and Clark Elementary School. And Burley, anything to point out, other than possibly thank the committee members on this one as well?
I feel like if I don't thank them, they will stop volunteering. Well, you're not. Yeah, you're voluntold. But yeah, I do want to thank Superintendent Thang, Pat McHugh, Karen Allen, and Principal Susan Anderson for their time on this. And then we're excited to work with Dick Anderson Construction again. And we welcome Alan and Forrest from Dick Anderson Construction tonight. So thank you. Moved by Trustee Smith, very enthusiastically, let the minutes report, and seconded
by trustee Lorenzen. And now any public, or any board comment? Did you have board comment? Okay. Any public comment? Thanks.
Yes, my name is Alan Frankel. I'm with Dick Anderson Construction, and would just like to thank the school district and the board and the selection committee for selecting Dick Anderson Construction and allowing us to be part of the Lewis and Clark project and being part of the vision for education here in Missoula County. So thank you very much. We're excited.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, then all elementary trustees in favor of authorizing the engagement of Dick Anderson Construction to act as the GCCM for Lewis and Clark Elementary School project, please indicate by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as to elementary trustees present. Then, again, we offer public comment at the end of every meeting in case those who weren't able to get here at the beginning have comments on non-agenda items that they'd like to make. So if anyone has any comments on non-agenda items, we will also hear them at the end of the meeting. Seeing none, then we're adjourned, and we're 3 minutes late.
Much appreciated.